Hi, I'm Jim Knotts, President and CEO of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. Welcome to today's virtual reading of the names. 2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. As part of our commemoration, we'll host an in-person reading of the names at the wall from November 7th through 10th, 2022, when all 58,281 names on the wall will be read aloud. In the lead up to that event, we'll be reading names each day online while sharing the photos of these heroes. For our daily virtual reading, the names of the service members will be read by month and day of death between the years 1956 and 1975 in alphabetical order for the given day. We apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. Know that our readers are doing their best to honor these service members. We hope you'll listen and watch each day and share with others as we remember and honor those who gave their lives during the Vietnam War.
James Michael Abbott, Norman Dale Adkins, Leroy Benjamin Aiken, Richard Lee Anderson, Carmelo Eng Jr., Rodney Keith Arnold, Gilbert D. Ariel Brenes, Donald Bulkett, Edward Merle Ball, Michael George Basil, James H. Bellflower, James Lyle Bell, Samuel Alonzo Passent, Jack Bidding, David Otis Blackman, John Emery Bladdock, Larry Gene Bonnell, Albert N. Booker, Thomas N. Brandom Jr., Richard Albert Brooks, James Harrison Brooks Jr., Albert Berciaga, Joseph Burks, Virgil Burks Jr., Frederick Charles Kane, Randall Kenneth Campbell, Ronald Jacob Campbell, Jerry Cape, Adrian David Carbajal, Dale Eugene Carmichael, James Patrick Cawley, Ronald Greer Klein, Ronald James Colon, James Thaddeus Conway, Andrew Philip Corbin, Michael J. Cotterill, Ernest Lee Cox, Gregory John Crossman, Dick Davis Culver, John Gerald Curtin, Ralph Lewis Cutler, William Floyd Dacus, Gerald C. Davis, Dale Darrell DeFord, Ronald C. DeForest, Warren C. Delaney, Kenneth Harvey Delp, Paul Leslie Dennis, Leno Ronaldo Dillett, John Ernest DeVash, Jeffrey Bruns Dodge, Gary Lee Deuce, Michael Rodney Dorman, Lyndon Dale Eiler Jr., David John Ellefson, Paul Falk, Eric Ficklin, Kenneth W. Fowler, Terrence Donald Fry, Patrick John Gagnon, Wayne Jacob Gutz, Michael Gerald Gibbs, Billy R. Givens, Emilio Gonzalez,
Patrick John Graham, Melvin Lewis Green, Philip Wayne Grendel, Ubia Jude Guillory, Charles K. Hackett, Jr., James William Hamilton, Jr., Paul Wayne Handerhan, Keith Eugene Haney, Donald Ray Hanna, Fred Andrew Hartman, Jr., Claiborne McGee Hatcher, Emerson E. Heller, John Joseph Hickey, Ralph Owen Hill, Dennis Wayne Hoff, Irvin James Hoyt, James Oakley Janes, Larry Dean Johnson, William Charles Joy, Daniel Martin Kelly, Michael Joseph Kelly, Jr., James D. Kendall, George R. Kidd, Robert Charles Kimmel, Robert Larry King, David Lee Kitchen, David Michael Lacey, Roger Paul Lanter, William Royce Latimer, James V. Lawler, Edgar Cartha Lay, Jr., Jeffrey Charles Lemon, Larry Jean Leopoldino, Robert Raymond Lewis, Richard Michael Lines, Joseph M. Lingle, Jr., Carl Lucas, John Charles London, Paul R. Lunsford, Ronald Lee Levere, John Martin Madden Jr., Boyd McGee, Michael Patrick McCook, John A. Marsh, Wilbur Florence Maddox, John Richard Maddox, Michael Joseph Mayberry, Douglas P. McCorkle, Jr., William C. McCormick, Jr., Henry Thurman McCrimmon, Bolin Poindexter McGee, William Russell McKibben, Jerry Doyne McManus, Mitchell Messing, Albert Cook Mitchell, Victor Allen Moore, Donald Henry Monat, Jr., James D. Moore, Charles Sargent Moore, Robert Gilbert Mueller, Charles Marion Neal, Jr., Stephen Carl Nelson, Bruce Paul Nettesheim, John David Nix.
William David Nodden, William Wesley Noetzel, Carmine Novembre, Joseph Loran Nunn, Arturo Olivares Martinez, James Daniel Olson, Jack Michael Ornelas, Annabel Ortiz Rivera Jr., John Thomas Patrone, Robert Dwayne Patterson, Robert Livingston Pierce, Carl Edward Pilkington, Sr., John Roger Powers, Richard Chester Pratt, Mason Irwin Raglan, William Robber, Scotty Henry Ray, Armand Irvin Ristonen, George Robinson, Edward Charles Root, Joseph Edward Royster, John Weldon Sadler, Jesse Leroy Samford, Brock Roland Schramm, David Lee Scott, Elton Lloyd Searcy, Billy Joe Sebastian, Fred Sena Jr., Thomas Boyd Sharp, Edward Gerald Sharp, Walter Harrison Sigafus III, Leonard Howard Smith, Gus Smith Jr., Kenneth Glenn Spencer, Thomas Gordon St. Ange, Gary Allen Stadding, Earl Stanley, Mark M. Steele, William D. Stepp, Robert James Sterling, Ronald Thomas Stetter, John David Stripling III, Leonard Dean Thompson, Thomas Edward Tongret, Ronald Bryson Van, Ronald James Walber, William Leroy Walton, Ronald Nelson Wanbaugh, Charles William Warner Jr., Michael J. Warren, David Warren Watson, Carl Richard Wenzel, Robert Larry Westcamp, Delvin Keith Wilson, Johnny Kenneth Woodard.